Hello and welcome to the Startup Sessions, the number one show for starting a business that matters by doing work you love. I'm Michael Knouse, and we have a powerful episode for you here today. We have the lovely Natalie McGuire of Natalie McGuire Design here in Portland, Oregon. And this show's the real deal, folks. See, Natalie just left her corporate job 4 months ago, and she is fresh off of knowing exactly what it takes to transition out of your job and into a dream job, and why you should probably consider making that leap sooner than you think. Natalie's also going to share how to safely plan an exit strategy from your job that's going to give you the highest chance for success. You'll hear all of this and much more about how you can safely make that transition from a dead-end job to getting paid even more to do work you love. It's all coming to you right now on episode number 4 of the Startup Sessions. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 4 of the Startup Sessions. I'm Michael Knouse, and today I am here with an amazing guest that just recently took the plunge and left her corporate job to pursue her freelance design work full-time. So I'm super excited to introduce and have Natalie McGuire. She lives right here in Portland, Oregon. In fact, we basically live in the same neighborhood, which is a trip because the guy that connected us, David, that lives in St. Louis, is the reason that we're speaking right now, and we live like 10 minutes from each other. So
yeah, seriously, really.
So it's kind of it's a small world, really small world. Natalie owns and operates Natalie McGuire Designs, and she does kick butt design work for small businesses and entrepreneurs. She's the designer of my site, the Startup Sessions, and my logo, and all that cool stuff. So I just want to give a shout out to you for doing an amazing job and being a true pro at what it is that you do. And I'll link up, all your contact information under this episode so people can know how to contact you when they need to get like really amazing stuff done. Okay?
Oh, thank you.
So, Natalie, you are my number 4 guest on the Startup Sessions, which I think is fantastic from 2 perspectives. One, as I just mentioned, you were involved in the design, the logo, all that stuff, and the vision for this show. And so to have you as one of my initial guests is exciting from that perspective. But number 2, you just left your job. You walked away from your full-time day job in June, and you're doing this full-time. You're doing your design work, freelance design, full-time now. And that's, I think, a goal for, a lot of the viewers of the show is how do I get from, doing something on the side and working a day job and balancing that to doing what I really love full-time. So
Totally.
I'm excited to hear you talk about that. But before we go into that, why don't you tell us a little bit about your motivation for leaving your job and pursuing your own web design business full time and kind of how that unfolded?
Yeah. Man, it feels like it's just been such a long time coming. I've always kind of had an entrepreneurial spirit, and but at the same time, I'm also I don't know. I don't really take a lot of risks in life. I've always kind of wanted to be gainfully employed. So it's been kind of a competing mindset, I suppose. But I've always kind of wanted to go out on my own and do my own design thing. But at the same time, I've needed to kind of build up my street cred. And so
Yeah.
after I graduated from college about 9 years ago, I just kind of made, career choices that led me to working at a marketing and design agency, because I figured, well, if I want to do that someday, I should probably, I don't know, see how one works, It's
Good
probably a
idea.
good idea, whatever. So after, job after job, I eventually landed at a marketing and design agency here in Portland and worked there for about 3.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they were great. They had major big companies that I'm pretty sure I can't mention. But I was just going to err on the side of caution. Big national companies doing, big, amazing things. And, it was really great to be the creative lead on so many of those projects. That was really fun. And my bosses were super great and just really good people. but but after 3.5 years of doing that, I still, things were, my soul was kind of getting gnawed on a little bit of like,
Yeah.
okay, you've done this, and you've learned everything that you can learn, and you're applying it to your side business, and doing things that way, but you're just not really where you want to be quite yet. And
Hmm.
so after kind of acknowledging that I wasn't really being creatively fulfilled there, um, I kind of had to evaluate, what I really wanted to be doing and how I was really going to get there.
Okay.
So
Got
yeah,
it.
kind of a big rabbit trail after another,
Well, I
but
think, we all, anyone who has a desire to have their own business and do work that's perhaps more meaningful in some way, we all have our own rabbit trail, right? We follow
yeah,
it and it
yeah,
takes us different places. So it's great to hear the background and the story of people who have actually done it. And you've just completed that cycle in that, you're actively doing your business full time and you're highly, highly successful at it. And you were before you left your job. Um, so, so maybe share a little bit about what is it that you what is it that you love about working with, solopreneurs and small businesses? What's more fulfilling about that than the work you were doing in your job?
yeah. I mean, that's kind of the big pull for me of leaving, was that the type of companies that we were working with there, just didn't really represent me and the kind of work that I wanted to be doing, which is where
Okay.
freelancing came into play.
Yeah.
Um, I love small businesses. I love entrepreneurs. They're such a fun bunch. It's amazing.
Yeah.
When you're a designer, and you get to work with big national companies. They're kind of these nameless and faceless masses that your work, it goes out to the ether, and at the end of the day, you don't really feel like you made a real difference. You don't
Hmm.
really see the look on the client's face of how they're interpreting the work that you've done. It just wasn't meaningful for me. Maybe other people feel like that's meaningful for them, but for me, it just wasn't my thing. And so what I love about small businesses and entrepreneurs is the fact that when you do something for them, you get to see their face kind of light up, or you get to hear their phone call of their feedback, or read their email of how they're interpreting what you did. And
Hmm.
that means everything. I mean, I love that I get to do what I love. I love design, and I love that I can do what I love so that this person can do what they love, and that I can make my life, and have that I can be financially secure doing what I love so that somebody else can be financially secure doing what they love, and it just works.
I love
I
that.
that's it That really means everything to me. And you know you just don't get that when you're working at a big company for other people. You don't get to see how something you did made someone else's life better. And that's what I need, and that's what I love. It's a little bit of a Miss America answer, but that's really how I feel. I don't mean to be all Miss
I
America
almost
about it,
started to
but
cry, Natalie.
I know, like, oh,
I was getting
girls
misty
can
eyed.
be, yeah, yeah. I mean, it really rang true yesterday. I got one of the most amazing emails from one of my clients, and it made me cry. It was just such a beautifully
Yeah.
written email, and it was basically thanking me for letting her do what she loves to do. She's a makeup artist, and she
Yeah.
sent me this amazing email of just like, I thank, the universe for putting you in my life, and, I can do what
Wow.
I love because of what you've done for me. And, it's just an amazing feeling to know that something I did made someone else's life better.
Yeah. So it's more than just about the money, obviously.
Oh, hugely,
Yeah.
hugely.
One of the
Absolutely.
one of the things that's I've really enjoyed in just a few short interviews with people is hearing that story of, what? Now I'm out there doing what I'm truly aligned with,
Yeah.
and I get instant feedback. People, just like you said, I get an email. I get someone who says, "Hey," grabs me in the hallway after, a yoga person's taught a yoga class, or after a fitness guy has just helped his client lose 5 pounds or whatever. And just people are so grateful when
Yeah.
entrepreneurs get out there and they're giving their gifts, those things that truly inspire them. And that just passes on to other people and in turn inspires other people. It's
Oh,
great.
absolutely. It's
Yeah.
huge. I mean, yeah, when you feel like you've mattered.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think we all just want to matter. And, I so much of, our day jobs, are just sort of treading water. And when you are doing your own thing and you see the results that it provides for other people, no matter what business you're in, that means everything. I
Hmm.
mean, that's just you matter and you have a purpose, and that's everything.
And I think that's where it really comes into just like feeding your energy for wanting to get up in the morning and be excited about your day versus maybe either being neutral about it or dreading getting up in the morning and going to work and doing the same thing and being with the same people and dealing with the same old clients that treat you like crap or whatever it is. Um,
Yeah.
it just when you get into that, I call it the sweet spot. It's like when an entrepreneur finds their thing and then they're
Hmm.
able to even start giving some energy to it in the form of, stepping outside and doing a business on the side. And then when, like you did in June, step outside of your job and you pursue it full time, it's like you're stepping into the fullest expression of you through your business. And
Yeah.
it's just spilling out into the world. And all these people are, getting to benefit from you and who you are. I did. I get to benefit. Now I
Yeah.
have this incredible site and this incredible show. And it's
Oh,
all because of
thanks.
Natalie McGuire Designs. No, it's
But I mean,
just it's
so
great. It's
true.
just a true reflection of who we are when we get to put that out there. And I mean, you're just this. You're a pro. The first time we interacted, and I filled out the questionnaire, and I got it back, and all of our dealings were with you. Were just I like knew that you were the person who needed to do my website and my logo and stuff because you were a pro. You were just like you took
Oh,
it, made me feel great, and it turned out awesome.
oh, thank you so much. That's really great to hear. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's kind of, one of the things about working at the agency that, you just don't really you you just don't really get to see that and apply that to people that really need it. I mean, when I don't know, I don't really know how to say this properly without like stepping on anybody's toes. But I mean, so many small businesses and entrepreneurs really need the work of somebody that has worked at a marketing agency, but they don't have the budgets to afford it. And,
Yeah.
that's kind of one of the things that I really try to bring to my clients of entrepreneurs and small businesses, that I have the background in marketing and design and search engine optimization. And so, you know, I would rather see these people work with a freelancer that understands all of those areas than succumb to the bloated retainers of a marketing agency. I mean, that's not to say
Yeah.
that, some people and some businesses absolutely would need a marketing and design agency for how big their, you know, corporation is.
Hmm.
But for the kind of people that I love working with, they need that help, but they can't afford that help. And
Yeah.
I love that I can kind of bridge that gap of somebody who is affordable and will work with their budget and give them the help that they need in order to succeed. Um,
Yes.
Being able to kind of locate that area of what I can offer to them that they won't get anywhere else,
Hmm.
or that they can't afford to get anywhere else, really.
Right. Well, yeah, it's huge. It's a huge service. I started with my very basic WordPress blog, which it took me like
Yeah.
15 minutes to set up, and that sufficed for just me getting, starting to blog and find my voice and get out there. But I knew that to go pro and really, have I don't know, I guess credibility is part of it, but just be
Yeah,
act and feel and look professional that I needed to have that. And that's what you provided. So,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah. All right, let's shift gears for a second. One of the things that it seems like so many people in the corporate world that feel trapped or they want to start a business on the side, or maybe they've already got one, but they want to make that leap to full time. One of their biggest couple of their biggest things are just fear and uncertainty and lack of clarity around how that
Mm,
happens. And since
yeah.
you've just recently left your day job to pursue your freelance design business full time, I want to have you talk a little bit about how did you make that happen? How did it work for Natalie, and how did all this come together for you? I think that would be really valuable for the viewers of the show.
Yeah, you know, it's and anybody who's going to be watching this is going to totally understand the amount of fear and uncertainty that comes with really getting real with yourself and coming down to a decision of do I stay or do I go? And
Yeah.
for me, I'm a huge planner. I love having a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. And um, you know, I I think what it came down to was, after I had a interview with David Siteman Garland on his website, and after I started working with him, and I just kind of told myself that after the interview, if if just a ton more work came in, and if that lasted for a year, then I need to get real with myself and consider doing this full time. But
Okay.
even with setting that little that little plan in place, there was still like other bullet points to that plan that needed to be met. So like the other areas included like, well, I can't just rely on this interview for a year. There needs to be other things in place too. So like I really wanted to focus on, where all of my inquiries were coming from. Were there referrals from other websites that I've been on, or local search, and really kind of geeking out on my Google Analytics on my website to kind of funnel and track where all my traffic was coming from so that I was kind of making a case for myself a little
Yeah.
bit. It was almost like I was trying to justify my move to someone else or something, but it was really just to
Yeah.
myself of like kind of slowly building up your confidence of how is this going to work, and is this a sound round of reasoning. And after all of those things kind of came together and the excuses started to run out of like you need to figure this out, Natalie. um, that's when I kind of launched into the financial side of things of like,
Okay.
okay, so my marketing and my design and referrals are taken care of. Like everything is working out. So the next step is, what is my financial and work stream gonna look like? And let's get that secured and have an actual plan to make those steps happen. Um, and so, you know, while I was working full time at the agency, it kind of allowed me to build up a huge client base
Hmm.
about 6 months out.
Okay.
And I figured out what the income that I needed was, and make sure that I had 6 months of that booked before I quit. And
Okay.
so once I hit that mark, um, I wanted to make sure that I had appropriate cash flow for everything. So as I was booking clients, I always require a 50% deposit before design work begins, and then the other
Hmm.
50% is due upon completion of the project. And so
Okay.
of the 6 months of the people that I booked out, half of them had already paid. So I already had that nest egg, and then the other amount of that money was going to be due upon completion of the project. So I kind of told myself, well, as I quit, if I've already got 6 months of my income accounted for, so
Yeah.
what's the worst that can happen? And then on
Yeah.
top of that, I also had built up my personal savings, totally separate from the business
Okay.
side of things. And once that was all set, it was like, well, there's only a certain amount of prepared you can be, which is hard
Right.
for me to say because I'm such a planner. And it's like I had all of these things in place, and really I was still trying to, convince myself that this was something that I could do and that I had the confidence for. And
Okay.
after a lot of conversations with friends and my poor, wonderful husband, um, after kind of laying out my framework of where my work was coming from, my finances, I'm obviously a graphic designer, and all of that stuff was taken care of. My marketing was out there, my design was doing its job. I was like, well, I'm just going to try it for 6 months and I'm just going to see what happens. This is really not like me, but I'm just going to do it. And I went in on May 31st and talked to my bosses, and they were great. And the rest is kind of history. So,
Wow.
yeah, that was a bit of a mouthful. I'm sorry.
That's great. I wanted to have people be able to hear the level of detail. I would say, you're a planner, as you said,
Yeah.
and you had a very methodical way of approaching this, which is wise. And I totally I'm a huge proponent of, whatever cushion financially that you need to have set aside to where you feel comfortable, great, do it. But at the same time, we're all unique. We've all got different risk tolerance levels. And so it
Yes.
depends, I don't think there's a clear cut answer on how to approach leaving, your situation. It's unique for everybody. But I
Yeah.
love how you got into a place where you kind of kept taking away the excuses for
Yeah.
for leaving, right? You're like, oh,
Yeah.
well, okay, I've got clients booked out there and I've got 6 months worth of, people who've paid me and so forth. But um, you just kind of got to the point, it sounds like, where, gosh, I either got to leave now or or what, I
Yeah.
don't know. You really took away all your excuses, it sounds like,
Yeah. I
or
mean, I
most of
really,
them.
I seriously felt like I would, looking back, and it's not that long ago, but I mean, that's just kind of how my mind works of I I have a lot of justifications to myself.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I've never, everybody that I'm friends with, my parents, my family, my friends, my husband, everybody is so supportive. I don't know
Yeah.
who I'm justifying these things to. It's only to myself. And,
Yeah.
yeah, like you totally hit it on the head. I mean, everybody has different risk tolerances. And so I really wanted to make sure that it was prevalent in this interview that, like, yes, I'm a freak. I'm a huge planner. And that's why I set things up this way. But it definitely isn't for everybody. I mean, I really truly admire people that can take risks without being as freakishly scared as I was, and just trusting the process and just letting things happen. I mean, I so wish I could be that way, and sadly, I'm just not. But that doesn't mean that you can't be a planner and still go through those processes and ultimately make the leap too.
Yeah, and I'll say to that, we hear all these like hero stories. Not there's a few out there, right, of, hey, somebody who quit their corporate job and they didn't have any idea what they were doing, and they got this business idea, and 3 months later they tripled their salary in their job. That is the exception. There's a reason why we hear those stories, right? And that's because they're the
Right.
exception.
Yeah.
Most people, I would say, I don't have a percentage, but follow the methodical approach. They do what feels right. And you took a risk. Anybody who leaves their job to continue with their business full time, it's a risk. It's
Yeah.
also a risk to stay at a job that
Yes.
you don't love. There's risks,
Yes.
that go along with that too. So, ultimately, I think what you did is highly commendable, and it's the course of action that maybe isn't as exciting as that person who ran in and told their boss like they were leaving, and they got a great business idea and it flourished the next month.
Yeah.
There's exceptions. So what you did is commendable, and that's honestly, that's the approach that I would recommend. And it's similar to, it's not this exact approach for me, but it's very similar. I
Mm.
prepared. I started a blog. I started getting out there, and when it came for my company, ended up letting me go. I already had some income coming in. So I had
Right.
already started some momentum, and it's just different for everybody. So I appreciate you sharing
Yeah.
that part of your story.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I think that's kind of the beauty of when you're working someplace full time is that it allows you to have the opportunity of building something up on the side so that you can test it out and see if you even like it. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't, you know, without freelancing on the side of always being employed, I wouldn't have known how much I loved freelancing and the type of people that I love working with and
Yeah.
kind of my value proposition. I wouldn't have been able to figure out any of those things had I always just kind of stayed on the, 8 to 5 and not doing things on the side. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's definitely not for everybody. I mean, there's a lot of working weekends and nights and early in the morning and stuff. But I think the difference is that when you really love what you're doing, it just doesn't feel like work. And I think that's kind of the freakish thing about us designers is that, even if we didn't get paid to do what we do, we would be doing it anyway. It's just a perk
Yeah.
that we get paid to do this. And, even if, being a designer was outlawed tomorrow, I would be the first one thrown in jail. I would be doing it still. So, you
You
know,
rebel.
well, I mean, that's just kind of how it is. I mean, it's like it's hard when you identify yourself so much with what you do. And I think a lot of
Yeah.
entrepreneurs do that. I mean, we define ourselves by what we love, and what we love
Yeah.
defines us. And, that's kind of the beauty of, while you're working full time for somebody else, to really kind of pursue and try things out on the side and build it up. And then when you're ready, just do it. I,
I love
I
that.
mean, I don't know. It just kind of worked. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I guess that's all I got to say about that.
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
Oh,
Let me
thanks.
ask you this, Natalie. It, well, I mean, this question I get a number of responses from for, and it's if you were starting over again, today, would you have done anything differently? Do you think, in terms of just the progression of your business and how you started on the side? And actually, yeah, I want you to answer that because I just remember one thing
Yeah.
you told me.
Well, I mean, I would not have waited so long. I,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have, I wouldn't have wasted so much time being afraid. I mean, I really spent like a good 6, 8 months of being just terrified. And that's such a waste of time. It's such a
Oh, you
waste
can
of
say that
time.
now. It's
I
hindsight.
mean, oh God. I mean, just the amount of stress I put on myself in trying to in trying to just justify things to myself, that was just such a waste of time. And I
Yeah.
just it just made me crazy. Like that I mean this, it might seem to other people that, oh, just Natalie just decides to like up and quit her job and start these things. But truly I've been freelancing as long as I've been a designer, and I've
Yeah.
been a designer since 2005. And so,
Yeah. Wow.
I've been doing all of these things and following this plan, and then finally, I'm being presented with this incredible opportunity. Like, you know, I have all of this work coming in, and there doesn't seem to be an end in sight. And I've built up this plan, and it's working. And
Yeah.
I'm what, afraid? Like, that's lame.
Yeah.
This is dumb. It's such a waste of time. And I guess if there was one thing I would have done differently, I just wouldn't have wasted so much time. I would have done
Okay.
this a year ago.
Yeah.
I should have done
Okay.
it a year ago.
What do you think? What did it cost you to wait an extra year, for example? Not to like
Oh
rub it in or
man.
anything, but just
No,
to like
no.
so people understand, everyone has
Yeah,
fears, and hopefully people can, learn from this scenario and make adjust their own plan accordingly.
for sure. Yeah. I mean, it definitely cost me just a lot of sleepless nights, a
Hmm.
lot of unnecessary stress, a lot of gray hair, a lot of being sick to my stomach, a lot of, just emotional stress and turmoil. And
Wow. Okay.
I think it just kind of goes back to when you're a creative person, you identify so much with what you do. I mean, I don't
Oh
just
yeah.
do graphic design, I am graphic design. And when you
Yeah.
have that overlap and there's a disconnect with who you're serving and what you're doing and where you're at, it really feels like such a huge violation and like you're doing yourself such a huge disservice. And I hate to make it sound so like melodramatic, but that really is how it feels. And if I would have made the decision earlier, I definitely wouldn't have been so stressed out about leaving my job
Mm-hmm.
and starting things on my own. And I told my bosses this when I quit. I was like, if you guys made it so easy to stay, and that was the other thing, was that they're good people and I
Yeah.
really liked them. And I had a cushy job. I mean,
Yeah.
I often would complain to my husband, like, if only they were mean to me, if only, if only like there was some light harassment, or I don't know, just like if there was, if they gave me a really good reason to leave, I would have preferred that. Had they be so
Yeah.
nice and supportive and kind of letting me do whatever I wanted to do, it would
Yeah.
have made the position I was in easier to leave.
Yeah.
So
That's a
I guess,
big one, because
yeah,
I mean, I've been in that scenario many years than probably I would like to admit, where it was just kind of like, yeah, I want to go do something else, but it's comfortable. It's not a bad place to be. It's okay.
right.
It's, I'm getting paid. I'm doing my work. It's a comfortable place to be. And that comfortable place to be can be in many ways, the most dangerous place to be.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because you stop growing and you
Yeah.
stop taking risks and you
Yeah.
stop well, I guess you just start being complacent. And I think that was another, I'm really glad you brought that up, because that was another thing that freaked me out and helped me to make my decision of ultimately leaving, was that I was no longer being challenged. And I was worried that my work was going to suffer. And I was worried about the type of designer I would be of staying there and,
Yeah.
for more and more years. I mean, when you stop taking risks and when you stop, I don't know, being pushed in that
Yeah.
way, yeah, I don't do complacency very well. I'm not sure I can really handle that. So, yeah, I think it was just that, I know what's going to happen. When I look into the future, I know what's going to happen if I stay here.
Yeah.
And I know that I don't really like how that makes me feel. Like the thought of staying felt more scary than the thought of leaving. And
Wow.
once
Yeah.
I made that shift cognitively, it was like this big weight had been lifted off my shoulders. And it was like, all right, I'm sending my bosses an email. I'm doing it. Like, I'm going to book a meeting. I'm doing it. And then I did it. And
Yeah.
it was just like, okay, yes, this is the right decision.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And now, what, what's the favorite part of your day, of your job? Because you're doing this full time now. You made the
Yeah.
leap. Is there anything you can pick out that's like, this is so sweet. This is my favorite. I don't know, my favorite part of my day.
Oh man, man, there's so much that I love about my job now.
Yeah.
It's really hard to narrow it down. I mean, I would say, the creative freedom that I have, of
Wow.
really focusing on each client that I'm working on, and to really deliver solid ideas and solutions and just thoughts and like the actual design work, to
Yeah.
really um, almost kind of zen out on it, and to really kind of fall into their branding, and to give even more of myself and to give even more of my time
Yeah.
to their work. Um, that is invaluable to
Yeah.
me, and that I can really strategize with people and to really provide a valid visual direction and solution for them in a way that I was able to do before, but it was, it's because it was always on borrowed time. It didn't
Yeah.
feel like it was all of me. It
Uh
was what
huh.
I could give on the weekend.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now it's my full-time job. And so I'm able to really give everything at 150%, whereas before it was still at 100%, but just it just didn't feel like it was my everything. And now
Okay.
it just feels so much more of everything.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's so abstract. I'm sorry, but
No,
it's
it's
how it
it's
feels.
awesome. It's you're fully engaged in
Yeah,
your own
yeah,
creative endeavor, and
absolutely.
that's amazing and
Yeah,
fantastic.
I think that's a better way of putting it is just being fully engaged and being fully enveloped in other people's branding and their visioning and everything. That's just
Yeah.
kind of amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean you're in that sweet spot. You're given your gifts, you're using your skills, your talents, your desires, all that's come together for you in your own business and you're able to provide that value to other people. And
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing.
All right.
Yeah.
So, we're going to wrap things up here. One of the questions that I always end with um, is I love adventure in my life, and so I'm always curious, and I want to know um, what's your current adventure activity, or what's the most adventurous thing that you've done in the past 6 months?
Oh man. Well, the most adventurous thing I've done in the last 6 months is quit my job and do this.
That was a pretty easy one for
That's,
you, right?
that's a pretty easy one. But I mean, on the side though, when I'm not designing, my husband and I love cycling and we love
Yeah.
hiking, and
Okay.
we are just huge outdoor enthusiasts. And
Yeah.
a couple weekends ago, we we were on this hike over at Savi Island,
Uh-huh.
and somehow we horribly got off this trail. Like it really wasn't our fault. I'll spare you the situation that went into it. But we were supposed to be hiking out to this lighthouse, and it was a good like 9 mile hike round trip. And
Yeah.
we got about halfway there, or no, we actually got about a mile away from the lighthouse, and the water from the island started to come in, and so we were starting to get kind of trapped. So that's kind of a bad thing. So we were decided we're like, okay, well we're just gonna head back to the trailhead. Like we're just not gonna get to the lighthouse because the way
Yeah.
that the tide was coming in. And so we decided to stop and have lunch first, and we started to hear some like voices behind us, and so we kind of turn around, and that's where the trail was. It was behind us on this ledge that was a good like maybe 9 feet above where we were.
Oh, wow.
And we heard, we saw a bunch of people kind of walking past there, and so what we decided to do was, we kind of look at this ledge, and there's like a bunch of driftwood and vines and like roots and stuff, and we're like, do you want to climb up? And so we did. So we're like climbing up these vines, and we get up to the trailhead, and we got our way up to the actual trail, and then we actually went to the lighthouse and completed our hike and went all the way back. So it was like we very much felt like Indiana Jones, like got almost washed away from the river. We were climbing through driftwood, using our hands to climb up through roots. It was very Indiana Jonesy. It was awesome.
I love it. I love it. See? Otherwise, it would have just been a boring old hike out to a lighthouse and back.
Yep. Yep. This way we got to Indiana Jones it up. It was awesome.
Sweet.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
absolutely. Yeah.
All right, Natalie, thank you so much for being my fourth guest on the show.
Thanks for having me. This is
I'm a
super fun.
obviously huge fan of what you do, what you're about. Your design skills are like amazing,
Oh,
and the fact that you actually you followed your intuition and everything to go and take the leap and make it your full-time business. So
yeah.
thank you again.
Well,
Why
thank you
don't you
so
tell
much
us
for
how
having me.
people can get in touch with you? And then I will link up that information at the bottom of this interview for any small business people or entrepreneurs that need graphic design services, logos, websites, that sort of thing. We
Sure.
definitely want to give them the opportunity to reach out and connect with you.
Yeah, I mean, I just, hit up my website, nataliemcguiredesign.com,
Okay.
and I'm also on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and all that kind of good stuff. So
All right.
yeah, I would say just get in touch with me there.
Okay. Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, Natalie. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.